If you take a look at what Alex Jones is doing on video, a friend of mine who's got a talk show in America, he's going out into places like the Bohemian Grove.
Six years ago, American broadcaster Alex Jones and his cameraman Mike Hansen infiltrated Bohemian Grove, a gigantic private forest owned by the Bohemian Club of San Francisco. For 130 years, the Bohemian Club has been holding rituals for 2 weeks each summer in a private 2,000-acre redwood forest.
There was a surprising development in the summer of 2005. A Bohemian Grove employee decided to videotape some of the activities in the Grove and to give us the footage. The footage you're seeing was shot on a tiny digital camera, so the quality isn't the best, but the images are powerful. The individual that gave us this footage asked that we not release their name. Our source was able to confirm what we had seen in internal Bohemian Grove documents and annals, that the elite of the elite attend the Grove. The Grove's own internal annals brag that the Manhattan Project, or the plan to create the A-bomb, was hatched inside this building, known as the Chalet. The Strategic Defense Initiative, better known as Star Wars, was also the brainchild of Grove members and was born inside the Chalet. Our source worked at the Grove in the summer of 2004 and the summer of 2005, and he was able to obtain 2 program covers for the cremation of care ceremony, as well as a 2005 membership list, which reads like a who's who of U.S. and European elite. Former President Jimmy Carter, former President George Herbert Walker Bush, President Bush, Henry Kissinger, George Shultz. The list goes on and on.
Now, if you look at a satanic pentagram, every Masonic lodge and every church of Satan somewhere in the building has a 5-pointed satanic pentagram. And if you look at the satanic pentagram, in the center of the pentagram, you see a pentagon. And the Pentagon building itself is a grandiose piece of occult architecture. And the United States, and indeed many cities around the world, are full of occult buildings. The Pentagon is orientated towards the north. This, traditionally in magic terms, is the point on the compass where the god of war, or the spirits of war, are invoked at the north point of the compass. If you look at an aerial picture of the Pentagon, you'll see that it's a pentagon, inside a pentagon, inside a pentagon, inside a pentagon. And this is symbolic of the way secret societies set themselves up with an outer circle of members, and then you have the inner circle, and then you have the inner core. Washington, D.C. is a fascinating place to explore once you've learnt the signs and all the symbols of Freemasonry and satanic groups such as the OTO. What Washington, D.C. is fashioned after an Egyptian necropolis. And an Egyptian necropolis in the ancient era of Egypt, the Pharaonic dynasty of Egypt. An Egyptian necropolis is a temple for the dead. And what Washington DC is a modern version of an ancient Egyptian temple for the dead, but this is now a temple of death. And if you want to look for satanic inspired architecture, look no further than the Washington Monument. It's proportioned after the giant obelisks of Egypt, and its height above ground is 555 feet. But it's anchored, obviously, into the ground just over 100 feet deep. The foundation runs 111 feet, about 20% of the height of the overall building above ground. If you add 20% onto 555, you end up with 666. The Washington Monument is 666 feet in totality. The other aspects of Washington DC are typically Masonic. The small roads within the parklands surrounding the White House have been exposed by David Icke and many other authors as making up the shape of an owl, which is the symbol of Bohemian Grove in California, the Bohemian Club. An owl sitting on the top of a pyramid, and of course the pyramid is one of the symbols that was used by the Bavarian Illuminati. And the whole of Washington DC is this modern temple for death. And the death management center is the Pentagon.
Get on with it. Say what you have to say.
When the Jews return to Zion, and a comet rips the sky, and the Holy Roman Empire rises, then you and I must die. From the eternal sea he rises, creating armies on either shore, turning man against his brother, till man exists no more. The Book of Revelations predicted it all.
I'm not here to listen to a sermon.
It is by means of a human personality entirely in his possession that Satan will wage his last formidable offense.
You said that my
Go
wife
to
was...
the town of Megiddo, in the old city of Jezreel. There see the old man Bugenhagen. He alone can describe how the child must die.
Look here.
He who will not be saved by the Lamb will be torn by the beast.
Will you stop?
Your son, Mr. Thorne, the son of the devil. He will kill the unborn child. Then he will kill your wife. And when he is certain to inherit all that is yours, then, Mr. Thorne, he will kill you.
That's enough.
And with your wealth and power, he will establish his counterfeit kingdom here on earth, receiving his power directly from Satan.
You're insane.
He must die, Mr. Thorne. Go to the city of Megiddo. See Bugenhagen before it's too late. You'll see me in hell, Mr. Thorne. There we will share out our sentence.
The Kabbalah is a collection of Jewish magical texts which were given to mankind via psychic communion with a fallen angel called Raziel. Raziel is one of a pantheon of so-called fallen angels who serve the light-bringer, Lucifer. The Kabbalah describes the many angels and demons who inhabit the spiritual realm. The Kabbalah gives Kabbalists a roadmap called the Tree of Life, which explains how to invoke and communicate with these powerful spirits. The magical information in the Kabbalah originates from Babylon and ancient Egypt at the time of the pharaohs, but did not reach Europe in printed form until the 11th and 12th centuries. The sacred books of the Kabbalah are just a few thousand words long, but they contain complex descriptions of a spherical Earth, parallel universes, and the atomic nature of matter, ideas which have become common doctrine amongst modern physicists and astronomers. How could such complex information be contained in a group of ancient texts barely larger than an average magazine? The answer is that the Kabbalah is written in code. Codes are used to conceal multi-layered complex information which would later be studied by medieval alchemists.
Since medieval times, the Jewish people have been considered a race of magicians. The biblical rabbis used shaman-type techniques to induce altered states of consciousness. Fasting, flagellation, and burying oneself up to the neck were all techniques used to prepare the rabbi-magician for a battle through the 7 portals of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Ritual sex magic was also practiced amongst some Jewish cults. Many temples had holes in the walls so that rabbis could ritually sodomize a prostitute, a young man or a boy, and invoke the fallen angel Raziel as they reached sexual climax. The word sodomy is derived from the name of the biblical city of Sodom, in which sex magic and also blood sacrifice were widely practiced. The collection of texts called the Kabbalah were eventually transcribed by Rabbi Isaac the Blind in Provence in the south of France during the 12th century. For the first time in its 6,000-year history, the ancient magical techniques of invoking fallen demonic angels and killing someone using the evil eye were put down on paper. The Kabbalistic writings of Isaac the Blind fell into the hands of a group of 9 French noblemen. These noblemen became known as the Knights Templar.